Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Vented Out podcast. Today we have a very important guest with us. He's actually going to be our very first professional athlete to come on board. He is an offensive lineman or defensive lineman?
Offensive lineman, yes, sir.
Offensive lineman Joel Galvan, and welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, we definitely appreciate your time, man. So, how's it going out there? Has the football season? I know in the NFL, the preseason's already started. How does that go about in the arena football? Is this around when you guys start up too, or
So basically, we actually finish around the time that the NFL and those sports start up.
gotcha,
So
gotcha,
we're on the outside of it all and stuff like that.
gotcha, and please don't mind me. Just like the audience, I don't have a lot of information about the arena football, which is why I was intrigued. I'm like, all right, I gotta have someone on board. I know Ricky will be coming here sometime soon, and
Absolutely,
I came across with your page through him. So thank you, Ricky, for the
absolutely. Shout out
connection.
Ricky. Yep.
And yeah, man. So why don't you give us a little background about yourself, Galvin?
So yeah, originally I was born and raised from the Bronx, New York. Growing up, I've always had a fashion look on things and stuff like that. I mean, being from the city, they're really into, what name brand you have on, what type of sneakers, Jordans, Nikes, you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So growing up, it's always been fashion for me and stuff of that nature. And just, I mean, as far as city life goes in New York City, it's uh it's definitely tough, but like I've been there for a long time, so I'm used to it at this point. And yeah, pretty much I've been pretty much a lot of places, thanks to football. So I branched out to California here. This is where I'm playing in the IFL right now. I'm playing for the Bay Area Panthers, and they're a first year team here. It's their first time running the program, and I mean, besides the losing side, we went 1-15 this season, unfortunately. Besides the losing side of it, everything else was A1. The coaches were all A1, top notch coaches. The living situations they have us in is top notch. The food and stuff like that, everything like that is all great. I love this organization that I'm in right now.
Oh, that's great to hear, man. And like to get to where you are right now. So arena football is that. If you can help me understand, is that in between college and NFL? Is it one of those? I guess you
So
can.
So yeah, basically it's a few leagues. There's the NFL, which is the big time, you know what I'm saying? CFL big time. Now there's the XFL, which
Mm-hmm.
is the Rock and stuff
Right, right.
like that. He owns that. There's the I'm sorry, I said the XFL, the USFL, the United States Football League. They're coming out with something as well and stuff like that. They're on ESPN and things of that nature. So there's different avenues, but the IFL I want to say falls in uh, so there's three tiers: NFL being at the top, USFL being second tier, and then the IFL would be third tier.
Okay, okay,
So
and is that what's the road to get to where you are in the IFL? Like, take me through that. Give me a roadmap of how to get there.
yeah, so basically everybody's road is a little bit different. For me, I started, like I said, in New York. I played football for 4 years there. My first time playing football, shoulder pads, helmet, and everything was my freshman year of high school. So only had a few years there. I was able to get some exposure, decent exposure, and stuff like that. I mean, New York City football is really slept on, unfortunately. I was 6'6", 315 coming out of high school, and
Jeez.
the biggest school I had coming out was junior college. So I played in the All Star game and stuff like that, the New York City All Star game and everything. And yeah, the biggest thing I had out of there was a junior college. So everybody's road is a little bit more different. Some people may get into something like this a lot easier. Some people have to work really hard to get here and stuff of that nature. But for me in particularly, I had actually 2 more years of collegiate eligibility left before I decided to go professional or anything like that. I had 2 more years left. And I was at a crossroads basically where I had to decide, do I um, forfeit my 2 years of eligibility collegiately, or do I continue? Because I had gotten an opportunity to play for the Storm, which is a team in South Dakota.
Okay.
That's the team I originally started. They're also in the IFL and stuff like that. I originally started there. So yeah, I had that decision, and basically, I talked to family and things of that nature, and I ended up choosing to forfeit my last 2 years of eligibility and play for the Storm. I did about 6 games there, 5 or 6 games there, and then I brought my talents here to the Bay Area and finished out with them.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then, what was your motivation behind leaving your collegiate years? I want to really kind of emphasize in case we have, feature athletes watching this, and let's say for whatever reason, I mean, now with the NIL deals, I feel like a lot of people are okay with staying in college because, if they're good enough, then they're going
Absolutely.
to go ahead and get paid. Um,
Right.
and I'm assuming like their money was definitely a motivation to leave earlier. Correct? I mean that's nothing to hide. There's you want to
Yeah.
start securing your financial status as soon as possible. And at
Right.
a professional level, so IFL is really no different. You're still a professional. Obviously, as you said, the NFL is still the top dog, and all that.
Absolutely.
But to be able to play professionally, get paid professionally, and then eventually end up in the NFL if that ever happens,
Right.
that sounds so much more sweeter than just staying in college, which is not bad. If that's something
Absolutely.
you want to do, then that's great. But what was your motivation behind leaving your collegiate years and then going forward to professionally instead of waiting it out?
So I've been to many schools during my journey and stuff like that. I've been to several different schools, and just my time there, what I experienced. You know what I'm saying? I was ready for a change. You know what I'm saying? Right now, at the moment, I have a daughter and stuff like that. That also brought some motivation and stuff like that to continue, just to start it. You know what I'm saying? Just get there, get started, bet on yourself, and just do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was my mindset going in. And I mean, for myself in particularly, I had a lot of basically, it's a thing with credits and stuff like that. In order for me to compete collegiately, I had to do a certain amount of credits and stuff like that. So I was behind on credits, and I had to complete some courses and everything like that before I was able to compete again for the collegiate level. So basically, my biggest deciding factor was, do I wait, or do I just, like I said, just do it? So I was just like, at that point, I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And like I said, I have my little girl and stuff like that. She's looking up to me. She wants to see where I'm gonna go in life and things of that nature. I just had to, make a decision, and my family was really supportive, and they leaned towards me going and doing it.
No, that's
So
yeah, that's a great support to have is with the family, right? They're probably going to be your biggest fans throughout your entire life.
absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're talking about growing up in like and this is just like a little tangent thing. I feel like there's a lot of cities I've noticed that aren't necessarily discussed about producing athletes, right? When you're
Hmm.
talking about Brooklyn, you're talking about, when people discuss New York, I feel like Brooklyn is always seen as like the secondary thing almost, right? Even in the NBA, yeah, you have
Right.
the Knicks and then
Yeah.
you have the Brooklyn Nets and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And I feel like those small cities are, or not to say Brooklyn is really small or anything like that, but the smaller cities, I feel like sometimes produce like some of the best athletes, right? Like
Absolutely.
here in Fresno, I mean, we had Aaron Judge, Jalen Green. You could go about Derek Carr. You could go about Devontae Adams. You could talk about all these people that are kind of coming out of nowhere, I guess you can say, right, to where the national
Yeah.
stage is. So that's pretty cool, man, to hear more and more stories about people that are kind of overlooked and then they end up being professionals.
Right.
And walk me through in terms of playing for the IFL. What is a season like? You mentioned that your season is over by the time the NFL season begins. Um, you know, and does that have to do with the fact that the NFL might be able to, scout some of you guys playing, right? Does that have anything to
Right.
do with it?
Um, I'm not too sure. I don't really know. I'm sure they do. They definitely do. There's several players who come from this league and stuff like that. They go and advance onto CFL contracts, USFL, NFL, and stuff like that. It's just depending on the mark you make here
Hmm.
and stuff like that. But either way it goes, I'm pretty sure we just have 15 games. It's a 15 game season. And basically, you have training camp earlier. I think it's like a month before the regular season starts. There's training camp. Training camp's about 2 to 3 weeks, and then you start getting into that season mode and stuff like that. You start getting who you're gonna play, and scouting them and things of that nature. You got meetings. Meetings are about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. You have meetings for the people you're going to play. Then you have meetings for yourself, as in what you did at practice and things of that nature, what you can fix up. The coach is right there, your position coach and stuff like that. And they're just coaching you up. You basically just taking notes and stuff like that on things you can do better next time, what play you might have messed up on. Then you can go home, look at that play or whatever the case may be, see what you did, fix it up at the house or whatever the case may be, and things of that nature. So I mean, it's nothing too hectic. It's not too crazy. The life of a IFL player or anything like that. It's balanced. I would say for the most part.
Okay, yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. How is the life of being an IFL player? You're talking about the perfect balance between life and work. Um,
Right,
how is that impacted in terms of, let's say you have a 2 to 3 weeks of training camp, like you mentioned. That's very short in comparisons to the NFL and all that, right? And
right. Hmm.
so, how fast paced is everything in comparison? Like, I would assume if you're only going 2, 3 weeks, it's usually the same roster year round, or do they normally get players in and out every year?
Oh, oh man, it's super fast. In the storm, they were getting players in and getting rid of players as fast as they came. I mean, it's a constant fight for your job. You have to always be on top of things. The minute you aren't, they're going to get somebody who is. So it's a really fast game. I mean, there's only compared to 11 on 11 football, it's only about 7 or 8 players on the field on offense and defense.
Okay.
So the game is just way more faster, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. So I mean, yeah, the speed of everything from the operations to how everything is ran to the actual game, it's a lot faster than, outside football.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I apologize for my ignorance of the sport. The thing is, like,
Oh no.
until I came across you and Ricky, I feel like there's really not much coverage on the arena football, which is why, like,
Mhm.
once I saw that he plays, I'm like, and I'm watching all these highlights, I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
this is great because there's that brief amount of time, which seems like it's forever when the NFL season ends and then the preseason begins, and then it's like, man, I miss football. And then I see
yeah,
Ricky
yeah,
and them playing, and I'm like, oh man, like, you guys are on the same team, right? And
yeah.
so I'm
Hmm.
watching, and I'm like, all right, at least there's something to watch in between right now. And then the more you watch it, you're like, oh man, this feels a little bit more fast paced too, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Especially when there are there any differences in terms of the rulings, any big differences that you think if a new person was to come and watch an IFL game that they'd be like, hey, like what's going on type
This
of
is weird.
situation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want to say basically the field length. A common, regular, outside football field would be about 100 yards, right, or 110, whatever, from end zone to end zone, or whatever the case may be, right. Um, in the IFL, the end zone is only about 50. The length of the field is about 50 yards. It's half of a
Mm.
regular field, and then the width of it, you have a huge field side by side, whatever the width would be. I don't know the width of a regular football field, but it's probably about half that. as well. So it's really condensed, it's really closed, you know what I'm saying? So the rules, I mean, uh you can a big one would be probably for me would be that the wide receivers can move before the snap of the ball. So
Really?
they're allowed to like literally get it like 3 second head start, go like to the five. Let's say we're at the 15-yard line. They can start at the five and start sprinting. And if they match it with the snap count, they can literally start right when in a full sprint. They can start when the snap is done or whatever the case may be.
Man, that kind of seems unfair though. What
Yeah,
if you got a
yeah,
speedy
yeah.
guy?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why those type of players do really well in this league right now.
Really? Okay, so okay, well, it makes sense if it's a fast-paced league. They're
Yeah,
probably looking for speed when it comes to the
exactly.
weapons, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming the quarterbacks are also probably relied on to be mobile.
Uh, somewhat for those who aren't mobile, they're required to basically be really fast with their reads, just deliver accurate, quick, you know what I'm saying, balls to whoever and stuff like that, and they have to have a good offensive line, which a lot of the times they will.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so
Yeah.
and then are there any differences in formations in terms? I mean, you mentioned that there's like it's 7 or 8 people out there on each
hmm
side. But are there any other differences in terms of like how many receivers you can have on the field and stuff like that?
Yeah, so there's always three offensive linemen for the most part. There's a quarterback, a running back, and so that's five. Then either two or three receivers to make
Okay.
seven or eight. So the formation is like so that's offense. Defense, it's three defensive linemen versus the three offensive linemen. You probably have one linebacker in the back or whatever, and then the corners who defend the wide receivers or whatever, two or three of those, and maybe like a safety.
Gotcha, gotcha. So the corners must probably also be speedy then, right? Because they got to keep up
Absolutely,
with the receivers. That
absolutely.
see right there, man. All this new information you're giving me is like giving me a better understanding of the game. So I appreciate that.
Cool, no
Um,
problem.
yeah, and so what is the length of the season in terms of games, and when does it start? When does it normally end?
So I know the season length is about 5 months. It's 15 games, so it's about 15 weeks worth of games and stuff. So then you might throw in like a bye week. We might have one or two bye weeks throughout the season. So yeah, it's about 5 months long with training camp and all that kind of stuff.
Does that include like the playoffs?
Uh yeah, with the playoffs it's probably six with the
Gotcha,
playoffs if you make playoffs, yeah.
gotcha, gotcha. And then what is the big game for the IFL? I guess you can say the Super Bowl of the IFL.
The big game would be the championship game to play
Okay.
for the ring and stuff like that. That'll be the Super Bowl, if you will. Yeah,
Gotcha, gotcha. So it's
it's the
just
IFL championship. Yeah,
gotcha. And then do you guys also play in conferences or do you guys just split it among
yeah. It's two conferences. I think we have 10 teams. I'm not too many sure how many teams we have in this league, but we definitely have two different conferences, and that's how they break it down. They break it down the winner of I guess the Western Conference, and then the winner of the other conference. They'll go up against each other in the IFL championship.
So if you play on the Western Conference, you don't play teams again in the Eastern until you get to the playoffs,
Uh,
or
yeah, until you get to the playoffs, exactly.
gotcha. Okay, no, I was
Yeah,
thinking I'm like okay, that kind of makes sense because I would assume that they probably do the best of each side and then
right.
whoever makes it to the playoffs. So it's kind of like the play-in type of thing, right? That the NBA
hmm
has where whoever has the best record from each side, and then the playoffs begin with the teams representing each side.
Right.
Um, And then when you guys do get into the playoffs, is it the best of the West to come out and going against the best of the East, or is it do you guys line up with records in terms of who's going to play who?
Yeah, so it's basically based off of your record. How you did during the regular season will determine who you play in the playoffs or if you even make playoffs and things of that nature. They
Got
they have like a score system, who lost to who won to who'd you know what I'm saying? How many wins do they have? How many losses? Like all that kind of stuff is calculated, and they come up with a playoff bracket, whoever's in and who's out and stuff.
Gotcha. So if let's say you're 7-3, or you said there's 15 games, right? 15 weeks.
Hmm. Yep,
So
15.
so then let's say you're 12-3, and then you're going against someone. So in the playoffs, when the playoffs comes around, let's say you made it to the playoffs from the West. In the East, there's another team that's 12-3, and you were both ranked number 2 in your respective conferences or number 1. So is that how you do the matchups? It's like the number 1 team against that number 1 team, number 3
Right.
against number 3, and then
Yeah,
whoever keeps on winning from that point. And
exactly. Yeah, basically something like that. It's just so they take, if based off of your wins, like I said, and your losses, they'll rank you 1 to 5 or whatever, how many teams there are and stuff like that. And then, like I said, there's your conferences. So each conference, they do the same thing within each conference and stuff like that. So once the playoffs start, they'll break it down by, 1, 2, 3. We'll play 1, 2, 3, whatever the case may be, kind of like that. Yeah, like you said.
okay, so then let's say out of so the championship can be with 2 teams from the same conference. Then is that correct?
No, no, no. Mm-mm. They can't because the way the playoff structure, like once you get into playoffs, you play the teams that you haven't played. Like for example, if we would have made playoffs, the first team we would have played, I believe, was a team we haven't seen in the regular season. Um, but then again, I could be wrong. This is my first year in the IFL. I was a rookie this year and stuff like that. And my unfortunately, like I said, my team didn't make playoffs this year, so I'm not too familiar with the structure and stuff like that. Just what the coaches tell me.
Yeah, no problem, and we're all learning here. So like,
Yeah,
maybe in the future interviews you can go even deeper into all these conversations.
absolutely.
Um, so then for, you know, I've also seen that you recently started a brand, the
Hmm.
Father Hood Brand NYC. Can you go ahead and give us a little depth in terms of what is that all about and what's the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I've always been into fashion and stuff like that growing up in the city. And I started the idea of this brand around the time when I had my daughter, in hopes of basically one day being able to provide her a life I never had. And basically, I just wanted to be the father I didn't have growing up. And basically, this desire basically fueled um, the foundation of fatherhood brand and stuff like that.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, basically, it's all about putting a spotlight on dads out there that are just day in and day out trying to provide endlessly. Um, it's a mixture between streetwear and positive messages of being a father.
Yeah, that to be very honest with you, when I came across your page, that's actually what kind of drew me in because I know there is a lot of emphasis, and rightfully so. Like, a lot of athletes talk about how they didn't have a father growing up. You even have, I mean, the biggest cases like LeBron, right? And all that
Right.
stuff where they make it in spite. And coming across your page and is something completely different where you're recognized as fathers for being fathers, right? And I think,
It's it's crazy you say that. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
But I myself didn't grow up with my father around and stuff like that, which kind of growing up and just seeing my mother go through the things she did and stuff like that, and still trying her best to be that father, even though she's a woman. You know what I'm saying? She
yeah,
still tried her best to fill that role, even though she couldn't do it as much as a father would be able to.
yeah, yeah.
Just seeing all that and stuff like that kind of fueled me more for when I did get in that position to be a father and stuff like that. I'll be the best I possibly can and do everything I can for that little girl or whatever I had at the time, which I have a little girl right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great message because I mean we this generation and the future generations we are responsible, right, for changing any of the cycles that we've experienced. So that's awesome, because that is another thing that we try to focus on here is the mental health aspect and how our growing or our childhood really does impact how we grow up and what we grow into. So it's really cool that you started something that is spreading positive, influence out there, and it's hopefully it gets to the point where it does encourage people to be more involved, right, with their kids,
Absolutely.
and then have both the kids and then the fathers, have something that they can relate to. And again, that's props to you for doing that, man.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, and then in terms of what are your plans with the brand right now? Like, I know it just recently started. Are you planning to, find a way to put it out there on the map, right? Is this something you're going to go ahead and try to do through your professional career, or how are you? What are the plans?
Exactly. Yeah, so basically what I want to do with it is basically use my name and likeliness and my success through football and stuff like that. And hopefully that is able to be enough to get the audience I would like to for it to reach and stuff like that. And I mean, as of right now, I'm just taking it slow. I'm not really rushing it as much as, I'm just trying to make sure this is a good product and the feedback is going to be, which so far it's been great. So, I'm just trying to continue the way it's going, nice and steady and slow, and then eventually produce this big thing where I want it to be, what I want it to be and stuff like that.
No, that's great to hear, man. And you know, so right now that the season is over for the IFL, like, what are you planning to improve on in terms of the off season? Do you guys even have an off season where you guys continue to practice like as a team? Like some of the players in the NFL, you see them scrimmaging against each other, seeing what they can work on, and then
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
as far as if you have like a connection with anybody and stuff like that, they can be your workout partner. Like Ricky, the only thing with me and Ricky, great teammate, love him. You know what I'm saying? He's a funny guy, great dude. He actually has a kid as well. So when
Yeah.
he seen my message and stuff like that, he was on board right away, supported right away. You know what I'm saying? Great guy. Um, but yeah, if you have like a teammate like Ricky, the only thing with him is he's from Fresno as well.
Yeah.
So I'm out here in Tracy, California, so it's like the distance is
Yeah,
real
it's too
far. So we
much.
can't be like training buddies or anything like that. But um, I mean, as far as off season goes, we don't have anything implemented as far as working together. I don't even think it's legal in this league to like do off season things with the team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But but I mean, off season just looks like working and working out and things of that nature.
Well, okay, then let me ask you this. Who's an athlete that you would say, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a football athlete, right? Like any athlete that motivated you to becoming a professional athlete, or maybe even a football athlete that you model your game after.
Um, I want to say I can't even say an athlete made me want to do this. You know what I'm saying? My first inspiration for football was my mother. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful, man.
I just saw how, like I said, we're from New York City, so can't even imagine the things people go through out there and stuff like that. I can just, talk about myself, but there's a lot of things that happen, evictions, you know what I'm saying, having to
Yeah.
go through shelters, things of that nature, just it was a long, rough journey. And seeing my mother go through things of that nature and seeing her response, just to always smile, be happy, and she did it. Even though we were in the worst position financially, she still did everything I can. If I came to her like, hey mom, I need $20, whatever the case may be, to do this and this with school or whatever the case may be, she always did her best to get what I needed and stuff like that. So I gotta say that has been my inspiration to first start playing and stuff like that. That's been my inspiration now, still now to this day. You know what I'm saying? Her and my daughter now that I have her. things of that nature. So
Yeah, keep that fuel in you, bro. Keep on lighting the fire because that's gonna take you far. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on board today. And I really do appreciate your time. I'm
absolutely,
happy that you started the brand, and I will be promoting it on our side. Because that is such a great positive influence for change that I think messages like these deserve a lot more
thank
attention
you.
than the ones we see nowadays. So, good luck to your future ventures, and we'll be sure to. I mean, I know I will be sure to tune in and check out how you guys play the Bay Area Panthers, and you
Absolutely,
guys will be the first team I watch, and it'll be good to see that I know people that are playing on the team. So, I encourage everyone that are watching or listening to this to just check it out. Our friend Joel Galvan here plays on it, and one of my close friends from dude, we met in the gym, and it's just
I was gonna ask you. Yeah,
yeah,
how do you know Ricky?
we just met in the gym, and he's just
Hmm,
been one of the coolest guys I've come across, and very friendly, like you said, from day one. He's
yeah,
just been an
hmm,
awesome person. So it's great to see friends do big things, man. That's
right,
what I'm all about, man. I love seeing my friends
absolutely.
succeed, and I want to see that happen with you too. So again, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming on board, and we'll go ahead and end the podcast with that. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.